What are we going to hear tonight that cuts through the noise of all of the political jib-jabs that we've seen throughout the day and then the weeks leading up to this?
I think this is going to be a lot about demeanor, presentation, calmness, relatability, those kind of things, more so than the actual issues that are going to be out there. And I think that's where Joe Biden really can take this race to the next level for himself by connecting with the American people.
Look, there are a lot of working class Americans right now who are dealing with the economic calamity that is the coronavirus pandemic. What does he need to do to convince the voters that he is not going to go so far to the left that their economic livelihood during the recovery would be upended?
Well, I think first you got to get the virus under control, or there's going to be no economic growth. And I think you look at the past. I mean, he took on a lot of the left-leaning people in our party during the primary campaign. His positions on energy, on natural gas, on health care are much more aligned with people down the middle of the political spectrum, maybe a little bit to the left. And I think people are going to realize that and be very, very comfortable with who he is.
You know firsthand about the impact of President Trump's trade policies. Your district in particular has had plants that have been incredibly impacted by the trade deals and the trade disputes that the president has had. How would a President Biden differ in terms of negotiating with countries like China?
Well, I think first, Trump has been a disaster. I mean, we've seen anywhere between 300,000 and 800,000 jobs have been outsourced under his first term. The trade deficit has increased by 18%, so it's a fallacy. Our farmers have been destroyed, and I think what Vice President Biden brings is, one, firmness. Him and Obama put tariffs on steel tubing coming into the country, which led to a $1 billion investment in a steel mill in my congressional district. But also, how do we outcompete China? That's really the answer. Electric vehicles, batteries, charging stations, AI, additive manufacturing, new economy. And that's what the Build Back Better plan does. And that's what we really need to beat China, is outcompete them.
Let me follow up on that, because there are many, especially in economic circles, that are wondering just how a Biden administration would utilize tools like tariffs. And what you said is that it would be a more strategic approach.
Yeah, I think it needs to be more than it was, but it's definitely strategic. Oil country tubular goods, when they're getting dumped, boom. You can put on tariffs and do it case by case because we have been damaged by it. But as you're doing that in a more strategic way, you better build back better in a more strategic way, and that means dominate these industries of the future. China dominated 50% of the electric vehicle market pre-COVID. Or do we have a plan to do that? Joe Biden does, and we're going to dominate the electric vehicle market. That's just one example.
Meanwhile, not just with economics with China, but also with Europe, there's been a lot of turbulence, a lot of volatility with how U.S. business owners are having to navigate through now what's been going on with Europe. What impact has that had on your district?
Well, I mean, Europe, obviously, we're on a different playing field with them because they have labor standards, they have environmental standards, they have, they take care of their workers in a way much better than, say, China or Mexico. So our trade relationship with Europe is much more stable. But clearly, they've been hurt by the coronavirus, a lot of the manufacturing in northern Italy, so they've been hurt as well. But Biden is someone who's going to reestablish these relationships, and we can play a leadership role around the European Union, around NATO, unlike Donald Trump has done. He's destroyed those relationships.
The political chatter is that Ohio is moving in a more conservative direction. You're here on the ground. You talk to your constituents. Does Joe Biden have a shot to win in Ohio?
We're going to win Ohio. I'm telling you right now.
What are you seeing that we're not?
Well, what we're seeing is in the suburbs, you're seeing a lot of Biden signs where there hasn't been a Democratic sign for a long time, and not a lot of Trump signs. And then with the working class people, those people who voted against Hillary Clinton, not necessarily for Trump, those people are starting to move back. You're seeing it in the rank and file labor unions. One said to me, I sent Trump there to stir things up, not to screw things up. And he didn't say screw. And so, those are the kind of voters that are coming back. They're very comfortable with Biden's position on natural gas, on manufacturing, kind of the bread and infrastructure. They like that, and they're going to come back home.
You're heading back to Washington, D.C. for fiscal stimulus talks. You're about to vote in the coming days on a package put forth by Speaker Pelosi that is about $2.4 trillion, significantly less than the CARES Act that had been worth more than $3 trillion. trillion several months ago. Is this an opportunity for compromise? Is this the moment for compromise with Republicans and Democrats?
God, I hope so. I mean, when you see the rates of people who are worried about, paying their bills, bankruptcy, losing their home, evictions still are out there, small businesses, restaurants, now's the time. I mean, if we can't do it now, it's not going to happen. And, now we're talking into November. I think we're going to lose a lot of businesses that will never come back. We have to act now.
Final question, just from a practical matter, procedurally speaking, if it doesn't get done, if fiscal stimulus doesn't get done before the November 3rd election, is December 11th the next cliff, so to speak, when we could see stimulus moving? People are trying to figure out when that stimulus is going to come on the calendar.
Well, my history in 18 years in Congress is that it goes up right to the deadline. So I would say, it would be probably early December. We don't go back till after the election. Then you have Thanksgiving, and then a couple weeks in early December, so that would make the most sense. But I hope we can get it done now, because the ramifications when we're talking about December 11th as opposed to October 11th are significant for millions of people who will be really, really hurt by this.